Hello, everyone. Today, Denise Gardiner?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure before I say the
Denise Gardiner.
Gardiner?
No, Gardiner.
It's actually, yeah.
I mean, it
Gardiner
is.
in name only. I kill plants.
Yeah. Welcome to Songs from the Sticks. I'm Lisa.
And I'm Naomi. Join us as we sit down with indie Canadian musicians to discuss things like
the importance of community, small town music scenes, and creative sustainability.
We were never in it for the fame. Won't be the next big thing or a household name. In a small pond, couple big fish just wanna hear songs from the sticks.
Welcome to Songs from the Sticks. Today we're sitting down with Denise Gardiner.
A regional, local talent for the ages. Dun, dun, dun. Good enough.
Yeah, sounds good.
Jesse? No, just kidding.
Yeah.
Hi, Denise.
Hello.
It's our last episode. We're really in sync. We've done this 8 times.
Yeah.
We're professionals.
Yes,
Obviously.
We know what we're doing.
definitely. I'm just a rank amateur in this type of thing.
You're going to be great. You're going to be great.
I'm going to wing it for all it's worth.
That's what we're here for.
That's what we want, yeah.
I mean, it's in the name. Songs from the Sticks. We're not trying to be fancy.
No, we're not.
I don't even know what fancy is. I could tell you a few stories where, very embarrassing things.
Down to earth, relatable.
Because you're from the sticks.
Yeah.
So, where are you from originally? And do you still live there? And how did you come to be here, where we are?
Fort St.
Oh,
John.
my goodness. I'm originally from Edmundston, New Brunswick. I'm Acadian Brayon. There's different kinds of Acadians. And I lived there for 18 years. And Edmundston is about 15 kilometers from the Quebec border. And my first inkling of music was my grandfather. We lived in the apartment above my grandmother's store, and he played fiddle. He was an amazing fiddle player. And I remember his rocking chair, which he'd made out of trees and branches, his spittoon right beside it. And his aim was perfect. And he had a little footstool, but I used that to sit on. I would sit in front of him, and he would hold his fiddle like on his chest, and he'd go like, feel out the tune. And then, when he thought he had it, put it under his chin, and then he'd just go and close his eyes, and the feet were just a tapping away. I loved it. I just loved it. And my mother sang these old French ballads all the time, and I actually wrote a song. I think you heard it, and I wanted it to sound something like a French ballad, and I sang it to somebody, and they said, "Oh, I feel like I'm at a Parisian cafe on this." And I thought, bingo, I hit it. Yeah, I nailed it. Yeah. So that was, and then just across the border in Quebec, in this little village on a farm, my Aunt Martha, who was this amazing musician, and she played the harmonium, and sometimes she would let us pump the pedals, and there would be kitchen parties in English. You would say swati, and we wouldn't miss that, and the neighbors would come, and they'd put chairs against this big room, and they would have my grandpa fiddling, and they would have my uncle playing harmonica and my aunt on the harmonium, and then various guitars and other fiddles. And then they would put cornstarch on the floor on the, I don't know, it wasn't even linoleum then. It was some kind of oilcloth. And they would have square dances, but they weren't called. And then my father, when he was in the mood, would get up and do a jig. And those were just the best times.
Yeah.
Those were the best times.
And that was up to like age 18, like your whole childhood.
Yeah, my whole childhood was this kind of thing. And of course, I was in choirs, and I sort of missed the bands. I was either at the wrong time, or it was too expensive, or, you know, things like that. But I was raised, you talk about the sticks, I was raised on a corner house, and we called it a mountain, but compared to here, it was a hill. Yeah, but it was the bush, and the street was gravel. It would go up the hill into the bush. That was about a block and a half away. And then block the other way was the cow pasture, and there were some interesting things going on.
You're surrounded by the sticks.
Yes, yes. And it was a French Catholic neighborhood, and my sister and I counted 72 kids in a block and a half, because there were, you know, 9, 10, 12 kids in families.
You guys could have staged a revolt, a revolution.
Oh, we owned the street.
The grown-ups didn't stand a chance.
No. And
so
they
then
stayed in the house and kicked us outside and locked the doors.
Don't come back till it's dark. So then after age 18, what took you away from there? Did your family move, or did you leave on your own?
I went to Teachers College in Fredericton. And for 2 years, and I just had the best time. And then I don't know, I hated school. And I thought, what am I doing? I'm going to go back to school. And I didn't want to go back to my hometown to teach, because it wasn't a happy time in the schools. So I was very interested. At that time, they would send principals to interview prospective, you know, teachers. And this guy came up from Amherst, Nova Scotia, and there was residential schools were all the rage then. So there was this school called the Interprovincial School for the Deaf. And I went to be interviewed because I was really curious. And it's not like he interviewed me. I interviewed him because I wanted to find out everything. And I went to teach there, and there was no instruction on how to teach, you know, hearing impaired children. And sometimes we had children, there was nothing wrong with their ears, but there was something wrong with their brains. So they couldn't respond to sound. We had all kinds of children. So it was really a cool experience. And I'm not sure I did a good job.
Sounds like everyone was kind of thrown to the wolves. Sure, you did the best you could with what you had.
But they were just the most amazing children. And they had all kinds of problems. And we were supposed to teach them to talk. I like talking. I could talk a lot, so that was not my problem. You know, so I could get, but not all hearing impaired children will
vocalize.
Will vocalize. Some of them, it's just not.
And was this like pre-ASL? Like, was that not a thing yet?
No.
Like a standard,
No, this wasn't. And we learned as we went, and I remember children with like brain damage. There's several kinds. I can't remember the name, but I had this little girl. She was only hard of hearing. She could have fitted into an ordinary class, but she couldn't because she couldn't talk.
Right.
And then one time I had this great big closet for toys and whatever. And I liked the little 5 and 6-year-olds. And I could hear talking in the closet. And I had a little boy who talked quite a bit. And who is that? And I went in the closet. And it was her having a conversation with this little boy. And as soon as she saw me, she couldn't speak anymore. And all the vice principal, all he could find me about this was a page out of some kind of magazine by this nun in St. Louis who had, discovered this. She was studying this. And it was called aphasia. And if you made it natural, like don't pay any attention, she would start talking and then stop as if it surprised her, but you could get her. It was really cute. It was really cute. But I loved this. I taught there for 4 years.
Yeah.
Then I got married and ended up, my husband was working in Kapuskasing, Ontario, which was an interesting place. The song Little Black Fly, it is so true.
I feel like the first time I heard of Kapuskasing was in a Robert Munch book. He is a character that's from Kapuskasing.
Oh, is that right? Yeah, it was a mill town, and it was very pretty in town. And of course, my husband loved horses a little bit too much, so we had to have a horse. And I felt sorry for the horse because, let me tell you, to keep the flies off the horse was really a challenge.
Sounds like the sticks.
Yeah, the sticks.
And then some things happened at work that were not. Anyway, he was kind of getting discouraged, and one of his friends who worked out in Grand Prairie where they were building a mill, and he said, "Oh, you should come to Grand Prairie." So he went for an interview, and we came to visit Grand Prairie, and Mercury retrograde is a thing. This was the most interesting trip ever. The first hijacking, when on the way back, the first hijacking ever. Like, we're on our way back, we're supposed to land in Toronto, and the pilot is circling to the point where I think we're going to run out of gas. And this was only my second time in an airplane, so I wasn't too trusting yet. And when they finally let us land, the plane holding the hostages had landed in Toronto, and they wanted gas. And if they didn't get gas, or if they got any, interruptions in what they were trying to do, they would start killing people. So, they cleared everything off.
How many planes were just up circling Toronto?
I don't know, but it was worrisome.
Crazy.
Anyway, we landed. There were more cops than passengers in the terminal, and Toronto wasn't that big yet, So this was just one thing. But anyway, I loved Grand Prairie. I loved the West right away, and I'd come out west with a girlfriend. We'd come as far as Banff, and I told my husband, "There's a horse in every backyard. You would love it." So he didn't know whether to come or not. So the old paper where you divide it and the pros and the cons. And I was on my second page of the pros for the West, and the other Kapuskasing was I was going to start fiddling lessons. That was all. And I said, "Well, I don't know about you, but I'm going." He said, "Well, I guess if you're going, I'll have to go too."
Yeah.
And did you have Suzanne yet? Or no?
No. Suzanne happened in Moberly Lake. We eventually moved from Grand Prairie. He applied to Canfor. He thought it was better fit to Canfor in Grand Prairie instead of the other mill.
Okay.
Because the dynamics had changed. So, and they said, "Well, we don't have a place here, but Chetwynd," and it was like, "Where's that?" So, and then there was no place to live in Chetwynd. And my first thing was coming over Wabi Hill, and there's this huge Esso sign. I think there were 7 gas stations in Chetwynd at the time, because it was the last stop until Powder King. And, then there was this big hotel in the middle, and then this mud puddle, because it was in December during a Chinook, with the trailers in it. That was the only, you bought a trailer, you put it in the mud puddle. And he found us this place. Actually, it was a shack at Moberly Lake. I didn't care. I loved the lake. Yeah. So it was a lifetime of fixing this shack, which actually became a very comfortable, neat place. Yeah.
And then, so how many years were you in that house in Moberly?
In Moberly, 47 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's really what I think of as home.
Yeah.
And I moved because I was not well and living because somebody said I wanted to fill out this application and say in the country. They said, no, that's not the country. That's the bush. And it was, we had moose and bear and whatever across the pasture and coyotes, and it was the most delightful place. But it's a lot of work,
And then your daughter, Suzanne, lives in Fort St. John, right?
Yes.
With your grandkids. And then,
And
a couple of years ago when I started to get to know you, you were driving from Moberly to Fort St. John to come to a house concert at our house, and then driving home in the winter in the dark alone all the way to I was like, first of all, your commitment to supporting local music is admirable, but also we're all worried about you. Yeah. And then as soon as you're like, I live here now, I was like, oh, thank God.
Well, it was just I guess a natural thing, because the neighbors and Moberly Lake is just this wonderful community. And they were all helping. Neighbors were fighting to see who was going to mow my lawn for 4 hours. One Saturday I come downstairs because I had multiple stairs, and I've got 2 friends busting in the door to vacuum my house. This kind it was, but I couldn't keep this up. So, yeah. So, and I was okay because the person who bought my house bought it because he loved it, and he sort of kept it up. But now he's now Westmo owns the property, which I always felt they should, own it. But it's not. It was a us house. Yeah. It wasn't a me house. Yeah. Yeah. So
I'm sure it was very hard to let it go, but then at the same time, kind of discovering a new side of yourself. Yeah. It's helpful to close a chapter. And
yes. And I feel like, and for a while, I didn't feel like me. I thought, I loved where I live now. It's 4 minutes walk from my daughter's place. I love the community in Fort St. John. Actually, when I do my calendar the first of every month, and I write all the things in there that there are to do. And after a while, at about the second week, I'm exhausted.
She's got a very full calendar. Yes. And I'm like, can we go skating? She's like, 2 weeks, maybe I could slot you in. Like, jeez, so popular.
Yeah.
On the frost of November, as winter comes into view, will you stay? Say you will. I will love you so true. If I can't spend December with you, if I can't spend December with you. In the warm summer.
So we've talked a bit about where you came from, how you landed here, what keeps you here. I mean, that's kind of where we're headed.
Yes.
What's the vibe in this community? I know Chetwynd and Moberly has a great art scene too, but even, we like to ask people about different art scenes or music scenes they've been a part of. So, yeah. So, I mean, was there a great scene in Grand Prairie when you were there?
No, actually, when I was in Grand Prairie, we moved there in 72. And 74, the neighbors arranged for us to move on to this little farm behind the airport, which is gone now. It's a subdivision. And the neighbors were fantastic. And we didn't have that much money, but I went and bought a guitar, which was an enormous price to pay, I think $100. And it was like a folk guitar. And at the time, I could play because my first guitar was a $14 special from Simpson Sears. And I could do some folk style finger picking, not fancy, but, basic. And actually, the first songs that I kept, some of them I still sing, but I put them on the piano, were written on this guitar, which had a very bad cold because the house in Moberly, the first winter, I had pneumonia, and it was an old log house, and it was very drafty, so we covered 2 sides with plastic outside, which meant there was no air, and I had a humidifier. My guitar was sitting in the corner all strung, and it didn't go well, so I still have it, which Suzanne dragged it to university. It was in the crawl space, and it doesn't sound good. And honestly, I've forgotten. I wish I had kept it up,
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
I'm sure you can get it back. And then you taught piano lessons.
Yes.
In Chetwynd, Moberly. Right? Is that where most
in
of your...
Chetwynd, at the college. I started at home, but there's all kinds of problems with collecting payments and this kind of thing. So when there was a job for teaching at the college in Chetwynd, it became vacant. So I went in, and I did that for almost 15 years. And I wish I'd done that from the start. I loved it.
And were you teaching school at the same time?
No. I taught school when I first came to Chetwynd.
Okay.
And I taught school in Chetwynd and at Moberly Lake. And I loved Moberly Lake, although it was quite a challenge. Like I had 13 children in grades 2 and 3, and it felt like I had 13 grades. But they were just delightful people. And but I think teaching music, and I had kids from 4 years old to 65, and they were all, I had adults and in between, and I had people like this young man who was taking DJ courses, and he wanted to learn how music worked. So we did a little bit of piano. We did, because piano is so easy to teach music on, because you can see
linear. It's alphabetical.
Yeah, I know.
Color coded.
Yes.
It makes sense.
It makes perfect sense, right? So, things like that. And then this woman who played cello, but she didn't quite understand how music worked, so she took some piano lessons, and then I encouraged the mothers. They think, you learn the right hand, you learn the left hand, you put the 2 together, there you go, what's her problem? So I encouraged the mothers especially to take, lessons, and see it wasn't that easy. And I had kids with, I remember this little boy who was bullied really badly because he had some kind of brain damage, and he couldn't quite coordinate his fingers, and he stuttered, and so his mother was school teaching him, and he was so serious about it. It was so cute, And I wish I had done that. Like my of my professors in Teachers College who thought I should go into music. And I'm thinking back, you shouldn't look back, so you get a very bad kink in the neck. All these music opportunities I missed because my father encouraged me to write music when I was in my teen, and I had this friend who was a musical genius, but I was into classical music big time.
Your rebellion.
I was my rebellion.
I will not be fiddling in a kitchen, thank you very much. I'm going to get educated and know what I'm doing.
Well, I thought, and now I'm so stuck into this frame where all the rules are written. I have trouble breaking out of that. That's my biggest problem right now. So you have to teach me how to jam.
I mean, there's the blessing and the curse of being classically trained. It's a bit of a cult. It's a bit of a brainwashing, and it's hard to undo. But I think, like you've been voicing that you want to get back into guitar, I think picking up a different instrument that you don't know all the rules, it's better, sometimes it frees up a little.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I also, my grandfather taught me some fiddling tunes. I remember the one when I was about 10, and I should have continued, but unfortunately I became a teenager and had better things to do. But I picked it up again on his, they gave me, I think that is so sweet of my parents that after he died, they gave me, his current fiddle went to my uncle, who was a very good fiddler, and they gave me his first fiddle. But it was all crooked and whatever, but I had it fixed. And it surprisingly, I call it my woodpile fiddle because he was raised from the sticks. It is from the sticks.
From the sticks.
Yes. And it was... he was raised by his older brother in a bush camp way in Latuque, northern Quebec. And he was 6 years old or whatever, and his brother played the fiddle. He wanted to play the fiddle. So, there were a lot of parties going on in these old bush camps, and they found these fiddle parts on the woodpile. So they put them together, and it's got screws holding the neck to the fiddle. The back does not belong to the front. But I had it fixed by Peter Dennison in Grand Prairie, who knows a lot about instruments. And it's got a surprisingly good sound.
And probably a
and
very
it fits.
unique sound.
Yeah, it fits just right. And it broke once, and I didn't have a fiddle, and my sister, who was a painter, sent me her fiddle, and she said, I'd rather paint, so I've got a backup. You've got a backup one. So and when I first started being serious about that at Moberly, my husband would go feed the horses. The dog and the cat would, beg to go outside. Everybody would leave.
The reason my mom I played piano like from age 8 or 9 or whatever. I started lessons, and I always wanted violin lessons. And my mom was like, maybe, I don't. And then come to find out, it's because she was like, I just couldn't imagine listening to beginner violin, like the cat screeching nails on a chalkboard. It's a...
Well, Naomi, sometimes I didn't even want to be there. It was
you had to put in earplugs.
God, yeah. But I sort of persevered, and I think if people heard me now, they would be surprised. But it's not something I want to play. It's my own thing. And I like
But I think this is where you have to give yourself more credit. You're like, I'm trapped in this box with my playing. It's like, no, you can play 3 different instruments.
Yeah.
And yes, you don't feel comfortable playing them all in public, but like lots of people don't play any instruments, even in secret. Like, I think
it's very true. It's very true.
Well, there's another thing too. I'm terrified of performance in public. And I get on the keyboard and, all your fingers are shaking independently. But once I get into it, it's a lot of fun. And maybe it's a power trip or something. But I like to be
She's
able...
just a narcissist. She's a very unwell woman. But I think this is another thing we like to ask people is like, when did you start performing or where?
Yeah.
And it sounds like everyone was performing all the time growing up and that like it was very normalized. But like you said, you were rebelling against the performers.
Yes.
So when did you start like performing, I guess like your original songs? I imagine you were writing songs in secret for a while and,
Yeah, it
where
was...
did that...
Actually, it was in Chetwynd.
Yeah.
At the library, they used to have these coffee houses. They were so comfortable because people would heckle you and you could heckle right back. They were just this kind of comfort. People could join you if they wanted, like it was just a comfortable place to be.
And everybody knew everybody,
yes.
Like a safe community space.
Love that.
Yeah. It was, I even played my fiddle there, and I always wanted to learn vibrato, but I was shaking so much there was indeed vibrato. So I never played it in public again. But, and now the Legion here sort of has much of the same vibes where they don't have to listen to you if they don't want to. They can join if they want to. But I like, it's a narcissist thing. I like to be able to control the emotions of people.
The thing that was very impressive at the Legion, like we do the open mic there, Ryan and I, and our friend Craig Brooks hosts it. Like we had one last night, open mic, and a woman came who's been playing fiddle in secret. She's probably in her 40s.
Awesome.
And Nick Bacante, another local musician, was trying to get her to, put down the sheet music and just go with her gut. And like she was sitting there, I could see her just like the longer she had to wait to go on, the more nervous she was getting. And it's just that thing of like, you just got to do it once to know that it's actually not that big a deal. And you've built it up in your head to be this whole thing. And Nick was trying to prep her. But then Craig got on the mic and was like, it's her first time ever on stage. Which I'm like, that can be even worse.
Make it feel better.
So many musicians and performers, like seasoned pros that I've met, are always like, if you're going to play something new or it's your first time doing something, you don't tell the audience until after you've pulled it off. Not, okay, I'm going to play a brand new song, I'm scared. You play the song, and then you say, just so you know, that's brand new, first time I ever played it. And then everybody gets to celebrate, rather than you're setting yourself up for this. Like,
I know.
But it's very impressive at the Legion when Denise performs, that it can get a bit rowdy, it can get a bit, noisy, and they always clap after songs, like they notice when it ends, but a lot of people are, in their own conversations. And we do try and dim the lights and set a bit of a vibe. But it could be the chattiest night all night. And the minute Denise gets up there, she kind of commands this presence where like people do.
I'm bossy.
And it's usually like she'll, court around and kind of start telling a story. And then the people that are listening start laughing. And then all of a sudden everyone's like, wait, what's everybody doing? It's very...
And I've written songs with I've got one that I don't like the melody, so I have to change the melody, but it's an Acadian song in English type of thing where people can participate, which I think is a big deal because whatever you perform, the audience has to feel good about it. That's my main goal. Yeah. If the audience doesn't feel good, what's the point of the song, Yeah. And music is a very emotional thing. And I used to tell my piano students, like, this is a story. And you have to feel the story, And if you feel the story while you're playing it, your audience is going to feel the same way you do because music has that power. So that's what I'm trying to do, And
that I think you're very good at demonstrating that it's not about perfection, and
I'll say
but that like the relatability and the very humanness of even when we're all nervous and our hands are shaking but you're still there and you're doing it and you're pulling it off and like Yeah, I think that's...
And I have to restart. I have to be brave. You know, it's real easy to stay home with my cat, but but I have to get out there. And I did a lot of traveling, which I loved actually, but there was not always a piano available, and even if there was a piano, you had to visit and this type of thing. So I got back home rusty as an old horseshoe. And I've been trying to, oil up the gears here.
Well, I think when it's like playing music or writing music, when it is part of kind of your, self-care, it's like a practice. It's a daily practice. And you go traveling, and yes, you're filling all these other buckets of travel and exploring. But then you're like, oh, there is this little piece of me that's not being fed that, it keeps you.
Yeah, it's almost like, when you forget to take your vitamins for a while, I feel weird.
Is there a favorite place that you've played over the years?
Yeah, like a town, a venue.
I would say the first place, it was, and we were just a few of us were commenting on a post that somebody put on Facebook, memories, all of us at the Chetwynd Library, the old library. The new library is a beautiful whatever, but it doesn't have that vibe of people sitting in between the books and, I think that was probably my favorite place, although there were other places like in Edmundston. I used to drive from Amherst to make it to the coffee house in Edmundston, and I wasn't really a performer there. I was a joiner, and it was like I hid the fact that I wrote music because it wasn't the in thing. It was the folk scene, and if you didn't do the written folk music, like, what's the matter with you? So, and my sister found, I've got to put music to it, a song my father wrote, and to me, it's got a Western vibe type of thing, and I've just got the words. She found that in some...
Sounds like we got to pick up a guitar, Denise.
Yes, I do.
It's all there waiting for you. I
know. I gotta get a guitar that's not a finger slicer.
Oh, yeah.
With
Chetwynd.
So now I picked up a word on the advice of this person. Actually, I had that word, and my magic word, my mantra for the year is finish. I mean, I'm really good. I could get 1,000 good ideas a day and start.
You're talking to two neurodivergent creatives here. Sure. We can start a lot of projects. But look at us, all of us here doing this thing. Last episode of the season. We're finishing.
We're finishing something.
Wow.
We're finishing it.
That's a magic word. That's a magic. Yes.
Maybe it's you. Maybe it's
celebrate.
Maybe it's retrograde. Who knows?
But anyway, so I've got all these songs I started, and you've got this window of inspiration, and you scribble, and you're, on the keyboard, or for me, on the keyboard, and you're figuring out this will work and this won't work. And then the inspiration passes, or you feel maybe, you should have a coffee now.
A little distraction.
Or whatever. Yeah, distraction. Yeah, that's my number one. And then the inspiration is gone, and the rest is going to be work. And, it's not as much fun.
Yeah.
So, you put it, I've got a file like that. So now it's finish. So I'm finishing. I did a little, I finished a little lullabies, very, very short. It was longer, but a friend said, this sounds like a dirge. Like, oh, that's not what I want. So I shortened it and lightened it up, and it goes in the back of the book. That when my daughter was 2 years old, we were in our house at the lake, looking out the window, and I would ask her questions, and she would answer, and it made little verses.
Yeah.
So I changed a few things, and it was a story. It was a poem. And one time I was stuck in the Toronto airport for 9 hours. Oh, and this is, this is, at first, like, and it was delayed because of an electrical storm. I could have gone downtown, but, they didn't say we'll be here for. So at first you go in the magazine racks and you look at magazines, but after a while, like, the people get upset that you're not buying anything. So, you've done all the magazine shops, and so you feel obligated to buy a magazine, but you've already read it in the, in the store. And then I'm a health nut, so I went to all the healthy places to eat. After a while, I tried everything, so I went to the junk food places, and I thought I should do something instructive. So I took the verses and I sketched, to put in a book. And I've had that for years. I mean, my daughter is quite a bit older now. And I thought this is because I belong to this writers group, which they're so inspiring and motivating and supportive. And I thought, they're writing all that's very intimidating. They've got novels and short story and anthologies and research papers. And here I am.
With your jokey little songs.
I know. So I thought, So I dug this out of the bottom of the box. And I thought, finish. So now I've got the verses. I made a plan what I was going to do with the illustrations. And my house is very dusty from all kinds of things. Christmas, the demolished tree that I couldn't keep my cat out of. I find things all over the floor, hidden, And I thought, okay, get the house cleaned and then take out this painting. And I had a friend who's a painter in Chetway, and I said, she did the most beautiful backgrounds. And I said, like skies. And I said, how'd you do that? She said, and she showed me. She said, you just flop paint on it, take a brush and smear it. And she says, smear it until you like it. And if you don't like it, paint over it and start again. And I thought, there is no fail. So
Denise is a true neurodivergent creative like you and I.
That's just
when you see something, I want that. I want to buy that little card holder for my Christmas card. I could make it.
The
audacity that we have to I could do it. I just smeared paint on it. I could do that. But then it's like, for us manic creatives, it's exciting, and obviously we're all very capable of doing all these different creative things, but also then very frustrating that the follow through
and finishing.
Finishing. So I have a writer friend who's so good at picking up junk. So I said, I want to do some paint, but a collage of things so that, and they said, well, what age are you writing this for? I said, well, it's mostly for a mummy reading to a toddler. And I want it to be like the child wants to touch it. So she said, I know what you need. So we went to Michael's, and it was amazing, the junk we picked up. So
that place, danger.
I'm trying to get into the mindset that, and I picked the easiest page. How dark is the night? The night is darker than Crow, and the stars are way up high. That's one verse, So I thought, that's an easy page. So, So, so I think, okay, get into the mindset, Denise, that this is going to be fun. And, gluing up like this, you can be as messy as you want.
And I think getting like the songwriting I've done with kids and little kids especially, just getting past the very adult perfectionist judging yourself. I'm in a songwriting course right now online where he's like, you know, you have 7 days to write a song with this prompt that he gives all of us, and that he's like, I want you especially this week to lean into writing imperfect lyrics, stupid lyrics. And the part of the prompt was that you're writing for a character that is not you. So maybe it's words that you wouldn't sing. Maybe it's, and getting out of yourself. And even that being like, okay, I'm going to illustrate a book, get crafty. And it's not really for me, but you also don't need to be making it for anyone's approval. And being confident that the idea and the words and the sentiment of it is worth finishing. It's worth documenting, archiving, you know, like.
Yeah, that's
how sad would it be if you never did it?
Total alien mindset.
Woman, pay him no mind. Listen to what I say. If you wait on him, he'll break the heart of you, leave you alone someday. Honeycomb fell in the air with sweet talking on how much he cared, but words will lie and break the heart of you, leave you feeling cold and bare.
You know, you go to nun school, and it has to be perfect before. And let me tell you, I was a teacher's bane. I mean, I got along well with the kids, you know, I had lots of fun with the kids. And I honestly got bullied by teachers because I realize now I wasn't the easiest kid in the class, you know, type of thing. So and I went back to teaching.
But then it's also that thing of like becoming the teacher you wish you had. And I know that I had some great music teachers, but just like the more we know about the different ways people learn and, you know, everybody's different brain chemistry, and that you can have empathy for those same kids that you were like. And rather than being...
Then I was, my little boy, who's now grown and he's very successful, you know, who stuttered and had trouble coordinating the hands, you know, like, I thought that was so sweet that he was trying and practicing and, you know, just...
Well, and just the, you know, the cleanliness is next to godliness, that children should be seen and not heard. It's just garbage. It's such garbage. When you like think about the innate essence of being a child, is that they are chaotic and wild.
It's
and
so creative.
And
it's so there's so much ideas that you can learn from children. And I had the most delightful children. You know, just some of them were my comic relief, you know, and their parents didn't always agree with how they were learning, because I had this music teacher tell me, I think it's so boring, like you get a book and you start page 1 and you've got like however many students and it's all run page 2, and I thought, oh my God, it's not like that at all. You know, I had this little girl that it was all week. I was, oh my God, she was still on like, you know, the first, I think it was, we were in March and she was still jolly old St. Nicholas. She couldn't figure out, you know, and I was thinking, okay. And then I started, you know, saying, you know, there's a magical thing called chords, you know, and it's like in the basement and it makes a song sound so much better. And, you know, if you take this C and this G and they're best friends and you play them together and it's C.
And you don't have to read anything on a page with your eyes. You could just work with your ears. And but that's the thing too, like being able to adapt you have the brain chemistry and the creativity to like, okay, well, this isn't working. Let's stop bashing our heads against the wall. But that same thing when you're getting into your own creative process, that like you would never talk to a student or a child the way you're talking to yourself, or beat up on a kid for giving up on this collage of a crow, or like, like,
Sure.
I think
I was told crow is my spirit animal. And
noisy.
I thought, a crow, I love crows, but a crow, other people have fluffy bunnies and deers. I have a crow. Peacock, I have a crow.
A vengeful, clever, loud crow.
Talks a lot.
I love it.
Don't mean to insult me. And she sent me all this information about crows.
The pros and cons. I'm going to read the positive. Okay, well, we usually ask how people are like creatively sustaining themselves, but I think that's exactly what we're talking about. You're going to finish every project you've started this year.
Yes, even if some are hard to tackle now that the squirrel shiny object is tarnished, or not as shiny anymore. So,
but even like allowing yourself, like you said, this lullaby, choosing to like cut it down and make it smaller, like even just allowing yourself to change, to move the goalpost. That's not, it's not a failure to make it shorter, to make it smaller. Like that idea of like, but what serves the song? What serves the writing? And then I'm sure a lot of these projects started as big aspirational things, but they don't have to end up that way.
Yeah.
And I thought, and it was a writer friend who's very, I don't know if the word is blunt or very whatever, but she's the one who said, this sounds like a dirge. And then I was talking to Larissa. I said, well, I was influenced because I lived next door to the Westmo reserve, and I said I could hear the drumming lots of times, and I said, I was probably influenced by that. She said, oh yeah, I was going to put the kid to sleep, boom, boom. So I thought, I should lighten it up. And I thought, I want to put a button like the birthday cards have or something that, the child could push. And I thought, if it's too long, children don't have that long an attention span. Mine never grew from childhood. But, I thought just short and tingly. And I changed the melodies several times. I don't have trouble with melodies. I can switch them back and forth, and, that's not a problem. The words, are sometimes.
But I think like this is a great project for getting into your like child headspace of like non-judgment. And I mean, the students I have writing songs, they don't care if things rhyme, and they're like, no rhymes with it like keep it simple, stupid, like it's just, so it's like you're not writing this book or this poem for a grown-up literary person to appreciate. Like it's for a mom and a kid. It's for
And I think you should write for yourself, because if you're not happy with the result, then you're going to project that, with the...
And I think, it's always like, to me, it feels very obvious when things are disingenuous, and I get like a yucky
you
feeling.
Get sort of itchy.
And I'm like, this song isn't about anything. This isn't a real story. It's kind of like when comedians are like, I was at the grocery store and that didn't happen. Like, no, you can tell when it's not real. Like, and I just, grosses me out. Maybe that's part of my autism spectrum. Okay, what about the song that you're going to play for us? Tell us.
Play for us.
Tell us about it.
This started all my songs, and I don't, giving myself the title of songwriter seems wrong somehow. I think I'm a conduit, and whatever my brain is, traveling out there, and it hits on this thing. But this thing has a life of its own. I mean, it's not necessarily going to listen to what I think. So we'd gone to a concert in Hudson's Hope, and the singer with her partner, who was a fiddler, were both of Acadian origin, and she was from Winnipeg. I'm not sure where he came from. So they played some Cajun fiddling and whatever. And on the cover of her album, which I bought, there was a really neat picture of a drawing of a crocodile. And we were talking, her and I, and said, oh my God, this reminds me of the little French children's songs, like 3 crocodiles are going off to war, saying goodbye to their little children, type of thing. And I'm on the way back, sitting in the back seat of Marcy's car, and I'm thinking, I should write a children's crocodile song in English. And I'm going, 3 crocodiles are going off to war, saying goodbye to their little children. Wait a minute. Crocodiles have children? That means crocodiles have wives. Yeah, that means crocodiles fall in love.
Oh.
Yeah. And that song took a
desires.
totally, yes, different turn. And it's not a children's song.
This show is PG, so I think it's a...
So what is the song called?
It's called Mr. Crocodile.
Mr. Crocodile.
We have to be respectful.
Yeah.
Miss.
Yes, like in the old days when each, married partners, the husband would call his wife Mrs. something, to other people, like.
Yeah. Well, Mrs. Gardiner says blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I always find it wild these days when I have students that come in and say, Miss Shore or Miss Naomi.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah,
No.
what's the... Oh,
First of all, I'm like, we're the same age, guys.
Yeah.
You're 8. I'm basically 8.
Yeah. Or when
Very
people
weird.
call you ma'am. Like, I've been called ma'am in a store sometimes. And
Yeah.
I'm like,
Or like when your kids' friends come over
yeah.
and they are really, maybe
Formal?
for the first time. Yeah. And
Yeah.
you're like,
It's weird.
Yeah, that's true.
Miss Shore, can I have a glass of water? I'm like,
Ugh. Who's Miss Shore?
Yeah. No.
And where do our
Whiplash.
listeners find you? Like, where
Oh, yeah,
is
you're on
music?
Oh,
internet.
yeah. I'm on YouTube,
YouTube.
quite like that Chetwin TV thing, which has, I think, Joseph Tabolte's on there. Last Horse Standing, Ian Berveau is on there. I was trying to get him to join me when I played the last song, which, what is it? Won't forget it, but you can put in any verse that you want. And I wanted him to put in one of a favorite song of his is the Rooster song.
Yeah.
And so, it would fit in there, and and then I did some. I think I've got 1 or 2 YouTube things where I teach how to write a song or where to put the bridge, or if you want a bridge at all, type of thing. And I think I've got a couple, and then I've got a CD which I would like to redo because after a while you evolve or whatever, and you think, although James Oldenburg did the recording and co-production, and he was very good and very thorough, and I did another CD with him, and again I'd like to redo some things, which was a while ago.
Maybe you just need to put out a greatest hits.
Yeah.
What's it called when it's like
Remastered.
remastered?
Yeah.
The like greatest Denise Gardiner greatest hits.
Yeah,
When we come up with your stage name.
Yeah.
Madame.
Oh, yeah. No, it's not going to be a madame. I wish
Mademoiselle.
I could shorten my name, which is,
Maybe you should go by like Denny.
Well, I thought
Dennis.
about Denny G, you know.
Denny G.
Yeah.
Hey, cute.
Yeah, my stage name. I wonder if it would catch
We'll ask
on.
Craig. We'll ask Craig at the next weekend open mic. He's good at that.
Oh, is
names.
he? All right. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, he named Ryan and I when we play together. He calls it Holy Matrimony. And I like to think of it like, I like to say it like, Holy Matrimony, like holy macaroni, you know? Yeah. And it's funny because we're not married, so.
Yeah, holy macaroni.
Unholy matrimony.
Unholy, oh.
That's our metal band, Unholy Matrimony.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we should play the game.
I hope this is easier than snakes and ladders.
Oh, it's easy. This is the game we created.
Oh, really?
Okay.
So it's kind of a spot the lie. Okay, so we're gonna ask you to name which of these is not a real Canadian city. So 3 of them are a real place, and 1 of them we made up.
Oh.
Lisa,
and you have to try to guess.
You pick whatever one you want.
Oh, God, this is worse than my history test.
There's absolutely nothing riding on this.
Okay, let's just start with the top one.
Whatever one you want.
Okay, so which of these is not a real Canadian city? Eyebrow, Saskatchewan, Armpit,
Yukon.
Sorry, Elbow, Saskatchewan, and Jerry's Nose, Newfoundland.
Which one is not?
Yeah.
Which one is not real?
Armpit.
Yeah. I mean, I screwed that up because I forgot where I was reading.
You were like, YT Yukon? Okay. Which of these is not a real Canadian city? Punky Doodles Corners, Ontario, Happy Land, Saskatchewan, Happy Adventure, Newfoundland, or Happy Accident, Northwest Territories?
Happy Accident.
Oh, you're
Wow,
good at this.
You're really good at this.
Maybe we're making it too obvious somehow.
Which of
my tell.
these is not a real Canadian city? Radville, Saskatchewan, Thrasher, Manitoba, Emo, Ontario, or Paincourt, Ontario?
Paincourt.
Real.
The one we made
Which
up.
one?
Was Thrasher, Manitoba.
Oh.
That's not real.
That's a pretty good lie.
That was a good lie.
Thrasher, farming.
Sure.
Okay, let's do one more. I don't want to pick the East Coast ones because I feel like you'll know those. Okay, what about this? Which one of these is not a real Canadian city? Meat Cove, Nova Scotia, Mayo, Quebec, Potato Falls, PEI, or Cheddar, Ontario?
Oh, that's a tough one. Potato Falls.
We made it up. They were like PEI, potatoes.
Yeah, I know. Potatoes. But they wouldn't be so obvious.
It was fun, though, to go through, like, Reader's Digest lists of, like, 50 funniest cities, and then I put them in categories of, like, that one's obviously, like, food-based. There was some that were a little
Newfoundland,
sexy.
if you go along the east coast of Newfoundland, starting from the north, I don't know who named those, but he must have been going through a hardship romance. Because, it's Heart's Desire, and then it's Heartbreak, and then it's Broken Heart.
We one about heart.
We have Heart's Desire, don't
Okay, we did.
Oh, yeah, here
You'll know this, I think, but... So, Heart's Desire, Newfoundland, Heart's Content, Newfoundland, Heart's Aflutter, Newfoundland, or Heart's Delight? Which one's not real?
Really? Heart's Aflutter.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
But we were like, oh, look at all these hearts. We should make up one heart.
Oh, it's just along the coast. It's awesome. Of course, I went to summer school to learn how to teach deaf kids Yeah, I was the youngest one there. I was 21 years old. I was with these older people and these 2 little old ladies, which I am now, I guess. But anyway, they were whatever. And they were on my case constantly because I talk with my hands. And this was supposed to be an oral school. Well, if I can't use my hands, I'm a mute.
I'm a hand talker.
And anyway, we'd have breakfast or meals at this long table, and I was with some people from Newfoundland. They had my back. And, and I was smoking at the time, and I'd go like this to the end of the table to a friend, go, Oh my God, they would jump up, like they were going to put me in jail. And people from Newfoundland were over there, and they'd start making fun of these two women in their face, but they were so funny. They would laugh. The two women would laugh, and I thought they had no idea. Yeah, they were just the most amazing people. I tried to keep in touch. Back in the day, you would start writing letters, and then you would send a Christmas card with the letter in it, and then you'd send a Christmas card, and and then this would fizzle out, and then every night we had what they called then a hootenanny, which was a sing-along type of thing. And they had these songs with like 40 verses that told the whole story.
What are they called? A sea shanty.
Sea shanty,
Those have a trillion verses.
Oh, God, yeah. And then I'm sure they made up some just to... They were such fun, nice people. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's one trip I have to take is I've never been to Newfoundland yet.
Ever?
No.
You lived right next door?
Well, I did not have the money.
Yeah.
I guess when you were young.
Yeah. They're just...
Well, let's go to Newfoundland.
Yeah.
The three of us. See what kind of neurodivergent chaos we can get into.
I think the whole population of Newfoundland. They're such interesting people. They're just...
I bet. I've never been either.
Me neither.
We're going to hear a song from Denise. And
thanks for being here. Thanks for
our show.
You're very welcome.
Closing out our season.
Thank you for the opportunity.
So fun.
Anytime.
Yeah.
Crocodile, scaly and green, you're the most handsome croc I've ever seen. My heart is on fire, I'm weak with desire. Mr. Crocodile, will you marry me? We could move on down, close to the sea, get a bit of beachfront property, dinner with flair, an exciting affair, then recarve for love in the swamp. The wedding will be a brine fairy tale. We'll invite the octopus, dolphin, and whale. We'll eat all our guests and then take a rest. Newly wedded crocodile and me. Mr. Crocodile, scaly and green, you're the sexiest thing I've ever seen. My heart is on fire, I'm weak with desire. Mr. Crocodile, will you marry me? While I was working on a grand wedding plan, Mr. Crocodile ran into the man who led him asunder with fists made of rubber. Mr. Crocodile was taken away from me. Now I'm wallowing in the mud all alone. My zest for eating is practically gone. My kelp is wilted since I have been jilted by my crocodile and the man by the sea. Mr. Crocodile's Crocodile, scaly and green, you were the most gorgeous thing I'd ever
never leave my company. Mr. Crocodile, scaly and green, you're the most fashionable thing I've ever seen. My heart is on fire, I'm weak with desire. Mr. Crocodile, will you marry me? Mr. Crocodile, will you marry me?
We would like to thank our listeners and viewers for tuning in, TELUS STORYHIVE for funding this project and making it possible, our behind-the-scenes team, including Jesse McCollum on video editing, animating, and visuals, Matt Stanier for song mixing, and Larissa Scriven for logo art and design. Additional thanks go to OHO Storyworks and Bruised Orange Productions. We are grateful always to be working, living, and creating in Treaty 8 territory on the traditional lands of the Daneza.